At its core, a democracy is an engineered mechanism. It is a system designed to accomplish one specific task: the peaceful transfer of power through representative accountability. If we look at this data visualization, the scale of India's democratic shift becomes clear. Before 1947, under British rule, only 13% of Indians held the right to vote, restricted by wealth, education, and gender criteria. But with the adoption of the 1950 Constitution, that fraction instantly expands to a full 100% of enfranchised adults. This expansion is driven by a bedrock axiom: universal adult franchise. As seen in this photograph from the first general elections, citizens from every demographic are granted an unconditional right to vote. Originally set at age 21, the threshold was later lowered to 18, cementing equality at the ballot box. Unlike many older Western democracies, which took decades or even centuries to incrementally grant voting rights to women and minority groups, India executed this mass enfranchisement instantly upon independence. The very first individual to test this new system in the 1951 general elections was Shyam Saran Negi. A schoolteacher from Himachal Pradesh, Negi officially cast the first vote in independent India, initiating a process he would participate in for the next 7 decades. If every single vote cast by every citizen carries identical mathematical weight, processing those votes equitably across a massive, geographically complex population requires a highly specialized and precise logistical framework. An egalitarian voting right is ineffective without a secure mechanical engine to execute it. To build and maintain that engine, the Constitution required a specialized, fully insulated regulatory body. That regulatory body is the Election Commission of India, or ECI, deliberately separated from the influence of whichever government holds power. This flowchart illustrates the ECI's strict top-down chain of command. At the apex is the Chief Election Commissioner in New Delhi. Authority then flows down to chief electoral officers at the state level, and finally to district election officers and returning officers on the ground, who manage local polling logistics. This network executes massive administrative functions. They register political parties, assign the recognizable election symbols used on ballots, and maintain the national voter roll, ensuring millions of eligible citizens are correctly documented. The enforcement power of the ECI was cemented in the 1990s under the leadership of Chief Election Commissioner T.N. Seshan. He aggressively cracked down on electoral malpractices, eliminated proxy voting, and enforced strict campaign guidelines across the board. One of the ECI's most potent regulatory tools is the Model Code of Conduct. This is a strict set of operational rules that trigger the exact moment an election date is publicly announced. Under this code, the ruling party is strictly prohibited from announcing new government policies, distributing financial grants, or launching infrastructure projects. The machinery of the state can no longer be utilized to woo voters. By stripping the incumbent government of its state-backed advantages, the Model Code of Conduct forces all candidates to compete on a level playing field. To see how the ECI applies these rules, we look at the mechanics of direct elections. This is the process where citizens cast ballots directly for their local representatives, such as members of parliament for the Lok Sabha or members of the Legislative Assembly at the state level. Looking at this map, the country is fractured into exactly 543 distinct territorial puzzle pieces, known as constituencies.
Built directly into this is a reservation system for historically marginalized communities. 84 constituencies are reserved exclusively for scheduled caste candidates and 47 for scheduled tribe candidates. Within each constituency, the winner is determined by the first-past-the-post system. A candidate does not need an absolute majority to win. They simply need the highest total number of votes compared to anyone else on the ballot. To form the national government, a party must control a majority of the 543 seats. 543 divided by 2 is 271.5, meaning a mandate of at least 272 seats is needed. When no single party reaches that threshold, we see a coalition government. Multiple parties with smaller seat counts combine their totals, stacking together until they collectively cross the 272 line.
This direct mechanism trades highly nuanced proportional representation for operational efficiency. It provides clear geographic accountability for voters and ensures the rapid formation of a ruling executive government. On election day, this massive architecture distills down to the physical polling booth. As seen at this polling center, voters must pass through a strict sequence of physical security and identity checks before they can cast a ballot. The primary physical safeguard against double voting is a simple chemical application. A polling officer marks the voter's index finger with purple indelible ink, creating immediate, visible proof of participation. Inside the voting compartment, paper ballots have been replaced by the electronic voting machine, or EVM, demonstrated here by ECI personnel alongside its companion hardware. The voter presses a button next to their chosen candidate symbol. The machine securely registers this choice electronically. Crucially, the EVM operates on a closed circuit. It has no network or internet connectivity, insulating it from remote digital interference. To verify the electronic tally, the system uses a secondary audit layer, the Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail, or VVPAT. When the EVM button is pressed, the VVPAT prints a paper slip with the candidate symbol. This slip is visible through a window for exactly 7 seconds before dropping into a secure physical vault. This unbroken chain of custody mathematically isolates the vote from human interference. By pairing a closed electronic tally with a verifiable physical paper trail, the system establishes a durable link between the voter's choice and the final result. While the Lok Sabha relies on direct citizen input, the Constitution also employs indirect elections. In this system, citizens do not vote directly. Instead, the representatives they already elected act as proxies to cast votes on their behalf. We see this in the Rajya Sabha, a permanent house that never dissolves. Its seating blueprint divides 245 total seats into 233 members elected by state representatives and 12 nominated by the president. To elect those 233 members, state MLAs use a single transferable vote system. Instead of a single winner, the MLA ranks candidates by preference, first, second, third, and fourth, allowing votes to transfer dynamically if a candidate is eliminated. This indirect logic scales up to the highest office in the land, the President of India. The President is chosen by a specialized temporary body known as the Electoral College. This filtering animation shows exactly who holds power in the Electoral College. Only elected members of Parliament and elected members of state legislative assemblies are granted a vote. Nominated members and members of legislative councils are explicitly rejected from the process. This mathematical aggregation of state and national representatives yields the ceremonial head of state, such as President Draupadi Murmu, ensuring the executive branch has consent from across the federal structure. These indirect mechanisms operate as a systemic shock absorber. By ensuring that states have a permanent, weighted voice in the capital, the Constitution buffers the government from short-term populist swings. Yet any mechanical system experiences friction. Today, India's electoral engine faces distinct vulnerabilities, specifically the influx of campaign financing and candidates facing active criminal charges. The ECI continuously deploys countermeasures to defend the system. On this split screen, we see the threat vectors of money and criminality on the left, met by the ECI shields on the right: strict expenditure monitoring, mandated public affidavits detailing criminal records, and national voter awareness campaigns. But despite layers of technological security and precise constitutional engineering, the system's output is ultimately dependent on the quality of its inputs. An ethically aware and vigilant voter base is the final safeguard for a democratic system. It outperforms any hardware upgrade or legal code by holding representatives directly to their promises. India's electoral architecture operates through a comprehensive infrastructure. As seen in this master blueprint, it balances the volatile energy of direct citizen votes with the stabilizing gravity of indirect institutional checks, facilitating the transfer of power for over 1 billion people.